On this Sunday, once a quarter, we invite people to share a testimony with us, and I thought it would be good to have Kevin North share his testimony because we've gone on a journey with Kevin and Kathy and with Matt and Sam for the last, 14 years? For a long time we've been on this journey with them, praying for them, helping in what ways we could, but they have seen challenges that are maybe unique in our church family, and they've seen God's faithfulness in the midst of those challenges, and Kevin's going to come and share that story with us.
My story started as a pretty stereotypical Christian success story. I got saved when I was 20, and then when I was 28, I married my true love, Kathy Jo Seckler, who I had met on an online Christian dating site. We adopted 2 boys, Samuel and Matthew. When Sam was 4, he still wasn't talking except for single words, and we finally figured out he had autism. It was a challenge, but we got by. The main issue is that he was so impulsive, so he had to be watched around the clock. Thankfully, by then, I had a new job where I could work from home with complete flexible hours. But Sam was also diagnosed with sensory processing disorder, which often makes him hypersensitive to things, and he gets overstimulated. He will have what's called a meltdown, where his brain shuts down and he panics. And he will beat his head with his fist or bang his head on the walls or punch people around him or smash his favorite guitars. After it's over, he's sorry for what he did, but during the meltdown, he literally is in a different state of mind, and he has no qualms about hurting the things he loves the most. This danger was a huge problem for us. It was hard to go anywhere because of the risk of overstimulating him and causing him to hurt others or damage property. We could barely find a babysitter, and we were seen as bad parents not being able to control his temper tantrums. Getting professional help was also difficult. We initially couldn't use Pine's Behavioral Health here in Coldwater because with new Obamacare rules, they won't take out of pocket. You have to be on Medicaid. But we finally found a child psychiatrist in Angola, and Sam got some medicine that greatly reduced the meltdowns, but it didn't stop them. The meltdowns were usually one-time events, and then we would be fine for a few weeks. But in October 2018, everything fell apart when Sam had daily meltdowns for a week. By this time, Sam had gained a lot of weight because of puberty and the medications, and he was getting impossible to physically control. And he broke our large screen TV, windows, guitars, and lots of other things. We finally had no choice but to call the police and have him taken to the ER. He tore up his room in the ER too, and they had to restrain him. This was also so real. This is something that happens to the 1 in a million kid you see on TV, not to us. My own son was hurting me and was totally out of control. All the dreams Kathy and I had for a normal Christian life were gone. I felt like I must be a bad parent, for I was trying to do everything right, but I couldn't get Sam under control. I couldn't spend much time with my wife or other son, Matthew. I couldn't go to church, and I couldn't work more than 20 hours a week at my job. I felt totally ineffective for God. All I was doing was just surviving. It would take too long to describe all the ups and downs of the next 4 years. Not only is Sam a difficult case, but the mental health care system is broken, as everyone calls it, and it takes so long to get help. Many times I had to camp out in the ER for days, which unbelievably is typical. We would finally get help, and Sam would be fine for a while, then we'd have to repeat the cycle again. In 2020, we had another miracle when Sam finally got admitted to the only state-run long-term psych hospital called the Hawthorne Center. He was there for 3.5 months, and Hawthorne came up with a creative new drug regimen that seemed to work. Finally, our lives were turning around and we had some hope again. But then 2 weeks later, Kathy got really sick, and without warning, she died. I was shocked and dumbfounded. Why did God take Kathy home just as things were getting better? Is God teasing me? Of course not. That's not like him, but it felt like that. Matthew and I recovered from the loss and skated by for a year, we started to get more help at home, including from a new autism center in Coldwater called Heart to Heart, which miraculously opened a mile just from our house, and the meltdowns weren't too bad. But last October, Sam seemed to change again and started to have back-to-back meltdowns in the same day. In January, one meltdown was so severe that Sam almost completely smashed Matthew's bedroom door in and almost got to him. I then had to make the heartbreaking decision to start requesting permanent residential placement for Sam. Sam was already on the waiting list for 2 months to go back to Hawthorne. The COVID fallout has made the mental health care system even more unbelievably broken, with wait times horrendous even for the most severe cases. After 5 months, we couldn't even get a status update, and Sam was still having frequent, dangerous, and destructive meltdowns at home. I was giving up hope. But to make a long story short, the CEO of Pines called the head of Hawthorne directly, and Sam finally got a bed there for a few months, which is where he is now. No one asks for hardship. I would not wish this extreme, torturous hardship on anyone. But I will say this. We all know we have to give up the things of this life someday. Are we ready to give it all up now and live with our heavenly outcome in mind? Having gone through the ultimate test, God has really strengthened my faith and helped me put everything in His hands. I don't take anything for granted anymore. Now that I'm actually able to do something for a change, I'm going to live every moment trying to make a difference. Raise Matthew, maybe even help change the broken mental health care system. I'm not out of the woods yet. Sam most likely will need to come home for a few months before a permanent place can be ready. But whatever life God wants to give me, easy or hard, I intend to trust God no matter what.